On March 12, 2147, the world changed in less than a minute. It started like any other day. People woke up, drank coffee, kissed their children goodbye, and went to work. In Tokyo, students walked to school under cherry blossoms just beginning to bloom. In Nairobi, street vendors set up their stalls as the sun rose over the hills. In Buenos Aires, a young couple argued over whose turn it was to do the dishes. Life moved at its usual pace, busy, messy, full of small hopes and quiet worries. Then, at exactly 9:03 a.m. Coordinated Universal Time, every screen on Earth went black. Phones, televisions, billboards, car dashboards, even the emergency alert systems in hospitals and airports. Everything shut off for 3 full seconds. People looked around, confused. Some laughed, thinking it was a glitch. Others felt a cold knot form in their stomachs. In that silence, the world held its breath. Then the screens lit up again. Not with news. Not with ads. Not with anything familiar. Instead, a vast dark shape filled the display. A ship unlike anything ever built by human hands. It was smooth, black as space itself, and shaped like a blade turned on its side. Stars glinted off its surface, but no lights, no windows, no markings gave away its purpose. Behind it, dozens more ships hung in perfect formation, silent and still, like predators waiting to strike. From the center of the lead vessel, a figure appeared. It stood tall, nearly 3 meters, and wore a sleek, silver suit that seemed to ripple like liquid metal. Its face was smooth, with large almond-shaped eyes that held no pupils, only deep black voids. Its mouth moved, but the voice that came out was calm, clear, and spoken in perfect English with a strange musical accent no one could place. "People of Earth," it began, "you are being addressed by High Consul Vex of the Galactic Hegemony." No one moved. No one spoke. Billions watched, frozen. "For 237 of your years," the figure continued, "we have observed your world. You burn your skies. You poison your seas. You wage war over lines drawn in sand. You are chaotic, unstable, a threat to galactic order." A pause. The silence stretched like a wire pulled too tight. "You have been given many chances to evolve peacefully. You have failed." Then, without warning, the image shifted. The screen showed Mars. Not the red, dusty planet from old textbooks, but Mars as it was in 2147, a thriving second home for humanity. Green domes covered entire cities. Solar farms stretched across valleys. Trains ran between colonies. 10 billion people lived there. Workers, families, dreamers who had left Earth looking for a fresh start. Children played in hydroponic gardens. Elderly couples watched twin sunsets from balcony pods. It was alive. It was hope. And then it ended. From the edge of the frame, a beam of pure white light lanced down from the hegemony fleet. It struck the planet's core. There was no explosion, just a sudden terrible stillness. Then, slowly, Mars began to crack. Great fissures tore across its surface. The domes shattered. The cities collapsed inward. Within seconds, the entire planet folded in on itself, collapsing into a swirling cloud of dust and fire. The broadcast showed it all in real time. No cuts, no warnings. Just 10 billion lives erased in 30 seconds. The figure reappeared. "This was not cruelty," it said, voice unchanged. "This was correction. Earth, you have one solar cycle to surrender all weapons, all governments, and all will. Become part of the hegemony. Obey. Survive." The screen went black again. Then, normal programming returned as if nothing had happened, but everything had. In New Delhi, a mother dropped her baby's bottle and screamed until she couldn't breathe. In London, a stock exchange floor emptied in seconds as traders ran for their families. In Rio, a priest fell to his knees in the middle of the street weeping. In Beijing, the government tried to shut down the internet, but it was too late. Everyone had seen it. Everyone knew. Within the hour, riots broke out in over 200 cities. People smashed windows, looted stores, or simply sat in the streets staring at the sky. Some believed it was a hoax, a sick, elaborate lie. But satellite feeds confirmed it. Mars was gone. The red dot in the night sky had vanished. Telescopes showed only a faint, expanding ring of debris. World leaders scrambled to respond. The United Nations called an emergency session, but half the delegates never made it. Planes were grounded, roads jammed, cities in chaos. The U.S. president tried to give a speech, but his voice cracked on live TV. He had no answers. No one did. Yet in the deepest bunker beneath Geneva, Buried under 300 meters of reinforced rock and steel, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Here, far from the panic above, a small group of men and women sat around a circular table. They were generals, scientists, intelligence officers, and diplomats from every major nation. Most had not slept in 36 hours. Their faces were pale, their eyes red, but their hands were steady. At the head of the table sat General Elena Rostova, a Russian officer with silver streaks in her dark hair and a reputation for never losing a battle. She had lost her husband in the Martian dust storms 10 years earlier. Now she had just watched 10 billion more vanish, including, she feared, her only granddaughter, who had moved to Mars Colony Theta to study botany. She didn't cry. She opened a sealed folder marked, Operation Alien, Eyes Only. 30 years ago, she said, her voice low but clear. After we found the first alien probe near Pluto, we knew this day might come. We hoped it wouldn't, but we prepared. She looked around the room. Operation Alien was never about winning a war. It was about surviving long enough to fight back. Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a Japanese xenotechnologist in his late 60s, nodded. We've reverse-engineered 3 hegemony drones. We understand their energy signatures, their weaknesses. We can build weapons that hurt them. A young American pilot, Lieutenant Marcus Boone, spoke next. He had been stationed on Mars. He'd escaped on the last transport before the broadcast. His uniform was still stained with red dust. They think we're weak, he said. They think we'll beg. But we saw what they did. We won't forget. General Rostova stood. Then we act. Not tomorrow. Not in a week. Now. She activated a global emergency protocol known only to 5 people on Earth. Across hidden bases in Antarctica, the Sahara, and the Pacific Ocean, dormant systems hummed to life. In orbit, long-forgotten satellites reoriented. In underground hangars, warships covered in tarps began to power up. Operation Alien was no longer a plan. It was a promise. Above ground, the world burned with fear. But deep below, in the quiet dark, humanity made its choice. They would not surrender. They would not hide. They would fight. And they would make the hegemony regret ever showing them what they were capable of. As night fell over Geneva, the first encrypted message went out to every surviving military outpost on Earth. Operation Alien is active. All units prepare for war. Godspeed. No one knew if they would win. But for the first time since the broadcast, people felt something other than terror. They felt purpose. And in the silence that followed, Earth stopped screaming and began to plan. After the broadcast, the world fell apart. Cities emptied. Governments broke down. People ran, cried, or just sat still, staring at nothing. But deep under Geneva, in a hidden bunker, a small group of leaders made a different choice. They would not run. They would fight. General Elena Rostova stood at the center of the war room. Maps of space covered the walls. Screens showed data from every corner of the solar system. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. She had just lost 10 billion people, including, she feared, her own granddaughter on Mars. But grief would have to wait. There was work to do. Operation Alien is real, she told the team, and it starts now. Operation Alien was not new. It had been planned for over 60 years. Back in 2089, scientists had found strange signals from deep space. Then in 2112, a small alien probe crashed in the Arctic. It was not from any human nation. It was smooth, black, and powered by something no one understood. That discovery scared world leaders. They knew. One day, someone or something might come from the stars. So they built a secret plan. Not to attack, just to survive. Over the decades, they added to it. They studied alien tech. They trained special soldiers. They hid weapons in space. They called it Operation Alien, but only a few people ever knew it existed. Now it was all they had. Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the lead scientist, walked to the front of the room. He was old, with thin white hair and glasses that kept slipping down his nose, but his mind was faster than any computer. We have 3 big advantages, he said, pointing to a screen. First, we found a way to link human minds to captured alien drones. We call it Project Chimera. A pilot can control a drone like it's their own body. He clicked a button. A video played. A young woman sat in a chair, wires on her head. In front of her, a small black drone hovered. As she moved her hand, the drone moved too. When she closed her eyes, it flew through a maze without hitting a single wall. "This is Lieutenant Anya Petrova," Dr. Tanaka said. "She's the best we have. With her, we can use the enemy's own machines against them." The second advantage was the Lazarus fleet. Hidden in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond Pluto, were 12 warships. They looked like old cargo ships from the outside. But inside, they held powerful weapons and new engines that could bend space. No one knew they were there. Not even most of Earth's own military. "The hegemony thinks we only have small defense ships," Rostova said. "They don't know about Lazarus. When they come back, we'll be ready." The third part was the Whisper Network. This was not a weapon, but a trick. Earth would spread false information, fake signals, fake plans to make the hegemony think humanity was broken, hiding, or surrendering. While the enemy watched the lies, Earth would prepare the truth. For weeks, the team worked nonstop. Engineers fixed old ships. Scientists tested new weapons. Soldiers trained in zero gravity. Everyone knew time was short. The hegemony had said they would return in one solar cycle, one Earth year. But no one believed they would wait that long. Then hope came from an unexpected place. A small ship appeared near Jupiter. It was battered, leaking air and flying on backup power. It was one of the last escape pods from Mars. Inside were 200,000 survivors, men, women, children, who had fled just before the planet was destroyed. Among them was Captain Marcus Boone. He had been a pilot on Mars Colony Theta. He saw the beam of light coming. He got his crew onto the last transport. He watched Mars die from the window. Now he stood in the Geneva bunker covered in red dust that would never wash off. "They didn't just destroy Mars," he told Rostova. "They took something from us. Our future. Our second home." Rostova nodded. "Then we take something from them." Boone had more than grief. He had information. On Mars, he had seen hegemony ships up close. He knew how they moved, how they refueled, and most importantly, he knew about their power source. "They use crystals," he said. "Big blue stones that glow. They pull them from asteroids near Jupiter. Without those, their ships can't fire weapons or jump through space." Dr. Tanaka's eyes lit up. "Quantum resonance crystals. We've seen them in the probe. They're rare, very rare." "If we hit their supply line," Boone said, "they go blind." Rostova made her decision that night. Operation Alien would not wait. They would strike first. The target, a hegemony convoy near Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Intelligence said 3 cargo ships would be there in 6 weeks. Loading crystals from a mining station, Earth would send its best. 5 stealth corvettes from the Lazarus fleet, piloted by crews trained in xenotactics. Anya Petrova would lead the drone squad. Marcus Boone would fly the command ship, the UNS Persephone. The mission had a name: Nightfall. For the next month, the team trained harder than ever. Pilots practiced flying in total silence, no radio, no lights, just hand signals and instinct. Engineers built new missiles that could pierce hegemony shields. Doctors prepared for the worst. Burns, radiation, loss of limbs. Anya Petrova spent hours in the neural chair. She learned to feel the drone's movements like her own heartbeat. She dreamed in black and silver. Sometimes she woke up screaming, thinking she was still on Mars. Marcus Boone visited the refugee camp set up in the Swiss Alps. He met children who had lost their parents. He held the hand of an old man who kept asking, "Why us?" Boone had no answer, but he promised, "We'll make them pay." The day before launch, Rostova gathered the crew in the hangar. The Lazarus ships loomed above them, dark and silent. "You are not just soldiers," she said. "You are the voice of 10 billion people who can't speak anymore. You carry their memory, their anger, their hope." She looked at Boone, at Anya, at every face in the room. "If we fail, Earth falls. If we win, maybe others will rise too." No one cheered. No one shouted. They just nodded. That was enough. On September 3, 2147, the 5 ships left Earth orbit. They moved slowly at first, then vanished into the void using cloaking tech stolen from the alien probe. No signals, no trails, just shadows in the dark. 3 weeks later, they reached Jupiter. Europa glowed white below them, covered in ice. In the distance, 3 hegemony cargo ships hovered near a mining station built into an asteroid. Blue light pulsed from inside the rock, crystals being loaded. "Stay silent," Boone whispered over the comms. "Wait for my signal." They waited for 6 hours. Then as the hegemony ships began to turn, Boone gave the order. Nightfall begins now. The Earth ships fired, missiles streaked through space. Lasers cut the dark. Anya's drones shot forward like ghosts, slipping past enemy shields. The hegemony ships tried to respond, but they were slow, caught off guard. For 11 minutes, space burned. 2 Earth corvettes were destroyed. 1 pilot died instantly. Another ship lost power and drifted into Jupiter's gravity well. But the Earth forces held Anya's drone latched onto the lead cargo ship. She felt its metal skin, its cold systems. With a thought, she overloaded its engine. The ship exploded in a silent flash of blue fire. Boone's Persephone rammed into the second cargo vessel, tearing open its hull. Crystals spilled into space, glowing like fallen stars. The third ship tried to flee, but Earth's last corvette blocked its path and fired everything it had. The hegemony ship broke apart. When it was over, silence returned. Of the 5 Earth ships, only 2 remained. The Persephone was badly damaged. Oxygen was low, but they had done it. The convoy was gone. Then Boone saw something strange. A small escape pod floated near the wreckage. It wasn't human. It was hegemony, but not a warship. Inside, through the window, was a figure. Not silver-skinned like the consul. This one looked different, tired, scared. Boone ordered it brought aboard. Inside was a being with gray skin and large, sad eyes. It didn't speak English, but it pointed to its chest, then to the destroyed ships and shook its head. It wasn't a soldier. It was a worker, a slave. Through broken signals and gestures, they learned the truth. The hegemony wasn't just an empire. It was a machine, a hive mind that controlled billions of beings across the stars. The workers had no choice. They obeyed or died. This one had seen Earth fight back, and for the first time it had hope. As the Persephone limped back toward Earth, carrying wounded soldiers and a former enemy, Dr. Tanaka received the best news yet. They had captured a hegemony command module, intact. Inside was a navigation core, and on it, a map. Not just of the solar system, but of the hegemony's entire network. And at the edge of that map, beyond Pluto, was a single point labeled Erebus, their command center. Rostova's voice came over the comms, calm and strong. Nightfall was just the beginning. Now we go for the heart. The crew of the Persephone looked at each other. They were tired, broken, but alive. And for the first time since Mars fell, they believed they could win. After the battle near Jupiter, Earth held its breath. The victory at Europa had cost them 2 ships and 37 lives. But they had done the impossible. They had hurt the hegemony, and they had learned something even more important, its weakness. In a secure lab deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Kenji Tanaka and his team worked day and night on the captured hegemony command module. It was smooth, black, and warm to the touch, as if it were alive. Wires and tools covered every surface. Scientists spoke in low voices, afraid to break the silence. After 10 days, they cracked it open. Inside was a glowing core made of the same blue crystal used in hegemony weapons, but this one pulsed like a heartbeat. When Dr. Tanaka connected it to Earth's computers, images flooded the screens, star maps, ship logs, command signals. And one location kept appearing again and again, a point far beyond Pluto near the edge of the solar system. The label was simple, Erebus Station. What is it? General Rostova asked, standing behind him. Dr. Tanaka didn't look up. It's their brain, he said. Not just a base, a command hub. All hegemony ships in this region get their orders from there. If we destroy it, their fleet goes blind. Rostova's eyes narrowed. How far? 14 billion kilometers. Past the Kuiper Belt, near a small black hole they call the Eye. Silence filled the room. Everyone knew what that meant. No human ship had ever gone that far. The trip would take weeks even with quantum drives, and if they failed, no one would ever find their bodies. But Rostova didn't hesitate. We go. While scientists studied the core, the world above tried to heal. Cities were quiet now, not peaceful but focused. People worked longer hours. Factories ran day and night. Children learned to fix radios and grow food in basements. Fear had not disappeared, but it had changed. It was no longer helpless. It had a purpose. The refugee camps filled with survivors from Mars. Many joined the effort. Engineers, doctors, pilots, they all wanted to help. Among them was a young woman named Lila Chen. She had been a communications officer on Mars Colony Theta. She lost her parents in the broadcast. Now she volunteered to decode hegemony signals. She had a gift for languages, even alien ones. One night she noticed something strange. Buried in the hegemony's data stream was a repeating pattern. Not a command, but a cry for help. It came from dozens of small ships across the solar system. When she played it through a translator, the words were broken but clear. "We do not want this. Free us." She showed it to Dr. Tanaka. He listened, then called Rostova. "The workers, the gray-skinned ones, they're not loyal," he said. "They're prisoners. The hegemony controls them through the hive mind. But if Erebus falls, that control breaks," Rostova understood. This wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about freeing others, too. Preparations began at once. The UNS Persephone, though damaged, was the only ship strong enough for the journey. Engineers patched its hull with Martian alloy. They loaded it with extra oxygen, food, and weapons. Most importantly, they installed the captured navigation core so it could guide them straight to Erebus. The crew was small, only 6 people. Captain Marcus Boone would command. Lieutenant Anya Petrova would handle drone operations. Dr. Eris Thorne, a quiet linguist who had spent years studying alien signals, would try to communicate with any hegemony beings they found. 2 engineers, Rosa and Jin, would keep the ship running, and Lila Chen would monitor all communications. Before they left, Rostova met them in the hangar. "You won't have backup," she said. "No rescue. If something goes wrong, you're on your own. But if you succeed, you change everything." Boone nodded. "We know." Anya touched the side of the Persephone. "We're ready." On October 18, 2147, the ship lifted off. It rose through the clouds, then vanished into the stars. No fanfare, no crowds. Just a silent promise carried into the dark. The journey took 18 days. At first, space was empty. Just blackness and distant suns. The crew worked in shifts, checked systems, and tried to sleep. But as they passed Neptune, things changed. Strange signals began to appear on their scanners. Small ships, hegemony worker vessels, drifted nearby. They didn't attack. They just watched. Lila picked up a new message. This time it was clearer. "You fight the mind, we follow." Dr. Thorne leaned forward. "They know what we're doing." Anya frowned. "Are they helping us? Or leading us into a trap?" Boone studied the radar. Only one way to find out. He ordered the ship to stay on course. The worker ships fell in behind them like shadows. On day 15, they found something worse. A hegemony warship floated dead in space. Its hull was torn open. Inside, bodies drifted, both silver-skinned soldiers and gray workers. But the damage wasn't from Earth weapons. It was from the inside. The workers had turned on their masters. Lila played the ship's last log. A worker's voice, shaking but strong. "We saw Mars, we saw your fight. We choose freedom." The crew of the Persephone sat in silence. They weren't alone anymore. By day 18, they reached the edge of known space. Ahead loomed a small black hole, its gravity bending light into strange rings. And orbiting it, like a spider in a web, was Erebus Station. It was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Black spires twisted around a central core that glowed with blue light. Ships came and went like ants. Energy pulsed from its surface. This was the heart of the invasion. Boone called a final meeting. "We have one shot," he said. "We plant the quantum destabilizers on the core. They'll cause a chain reaction. The black hole will pull the station in. Once it's gone, the hive mind link breaks." Anya checked her neural gear. "I'll take the drones in first." "Clear a path," Thorne added. "If there are workers inside, I'll try to warn them. Give them a chance to escape." Rosa and Jin double-checked the bombs. "They're set to detonate in 10 minutes once armed." "No remote stop." Lila looked at her screen. "The worker ships are still with us. 50, 60 of them now. They're forming a line." Boone smiled faintly. "Then let's give them something to believe in." The Persephone dropped out of stealth mode and charged. Alarms blared across Erebus Station. Hegemony warships turned toward them. Weapons powered up, but before they could fire, Anya launched her drones. 10 black shapes shot from the Persephone's bay. Linked to her mind, they moved like lightning. They dodged fire, crashed into enemy sensors, and blew up shield generators. "The station's defenses faltered. Go!" Boone yelled. The Persephone dove toward the core. Lasers streaked past. Explosions rocked the hull. Jin was thrown against a wall, bleeding from his head. Rosa kept the engines running with shaking hands. They reached the core, a massive sphere of pulsing crystal. Boone and Anya suited up and stepped into the airlock. Outside, space was chaos. Worker ships fired on hegemony guards. Drones exploded in silent bursts. The black hole pulled at everything, warping time and light. Boone and Anya planted the first bomb. Then the second. The third. As they placed the last one, a silver-skinned soldier appeared on the catwalk. It raised a weapon. Anya didn't hesitate. She sent a drone straight into its chest. The soldier fell into the void. Back inside, Lila shouted, 10 minutes! We have to go! But Thorn wasn't moving. He stood at the comm, sending a message in the hegemony's own language, a message Lila had helped him write. The mind is broken. You are free, run. For a moment, nothing happened. Then across the station, lights flickered. Worker ships broke formation and fled. Even some warships turned away. The hive mind was already failing. Now, Boone ordered. The Persephone pulled away just as the first bomb went off. Blue fire erupted from the core. Cracks spread across its surface. The station groaned, then began to tilt toward the black hole. Gravity took hold. Metal screamed. Spire after spire vanished into the darkness. The crew watched from the bridge. Silent Erebus Station was gone, and with it, the hegemony's control over the solar system. As the Persephone turned toward home, Lila picked up a new signal. It wasn't from Earth. It was from dozens of points across space, worker ships, hidden colonies, even distant planets. The message was the same everywhere. Thank you. Boone leaned back in his chair. He was tired, but for the first time since Mars died, he felt something like peace. They had not just struck a blow, they had lit a fire, and somewhere in the endless dark, other worlds were watching, waiting, hoping. Earth was no longer just a target, it was a symbol, and the war was far from over. But now, they had a chance. The Persephone limped home with its hull scarred and its crew exhausted. Oxygen was low. Food was almost gone. Jin's head wound had stopped bleeding, but he couldn't stand without help. Still, they were alive, and they had done it. Erebus Station was gone. When Earth's radar picked them up, the entire planet held its breath. Then cheers broke out in every city that still had power. In refugee camps, in underground shelters, in quiet homes lit by candles, people cried, hugged, and whispered. They did it. General Rostova stood on the landing platform in Geneva as the ship touched down. She didn't smile, but her eyes were wet. She walked up the ramp and hugged Boone like a son. You came back, she said. We had to, he replied. Inside the ship, the crew was helped down one by one. Anya could barely walk. Her mind was still linked to the last drone, and it took hours to fully disconnect. Dr. Thorne carried Jin on his back. Lila held a data chip in her hand like it was gold. That chip held everything, the final logs from Erebus, the worker messages, the proof that the hive mind was broken. Within hours, the news spread the hegemony fleet had stopped moving. Their warships floated in space, silent. Some turned in circles. Others drifted toward the sun. Without Erebus, they had no orders, no purpose. But Earth didn't celebrate for long. Rostova called an emergency meeting. The crew of the Persephone sat at the table wrapped in blankets, drinking hot soup. We won a battle, she said, but the war isn't over. The hegemony's homeworld is still out there, 12,000 light-years away. One day they'll send more ships. We have to be ready, Dr. Tanaka nodded. And we're not alone anymore. Those worker ships, they're free, but they're scared. They need help, Lila spoke up. They keep sending messages. They want to talk. To join us, Boone leaned forward. Then we don't hide. We build something new, the idea grew fast. Not just an army. An alliance. A group of free worlds that would protect each other. They called it the Free Systems Accord. But first, they had to reach out. Using the Persephone's comms and the captured hegemony tech, Lila and Thorne sent a message across the solar system. It was simple. If you are free, come to Saturn. We will not hurt you. We offer peace. For days, nothing happened. Then, one by one, ships appeared near Saturn's rings. Not warships. Worker vessels. Mining drones. Medical pods. Over 200 of them. Each carried beings who had served the hegemony against their will. Gray-skinned laborers, insect-like engineers, even tall, plant-like creatures from distant worlds. They had no weapons, only hope. Earth sent a small team, Boone, Anya, and Thorn, in a shuttle to meet them. The first being to step forward was the same gray worker they had rescued near Jupiter. It wore a simple robe now. In its hand it held a small blue crystal, broken but still glowing faintly. Through Thorn's translator it spoke, "You broke the chains." "We thank you," Boone bowed his head. "We couldn't have done it without your help." From that day the worker stayed. Earth gave them shelter in empty orbital stations. Scientists worked with them to understand their biology, their history, their pain. In return, the workers shared secrets, how the hegemony built ships, how they controlled minds, where their weak points were. One old worker named Kale told Thorn a story. Long ago, his people had a planet full of forests and rivers. The hegemony came not with bombs but with promises. "Join us," they said. "You will be safe." But once inside the hive mind, there was no leaving. Thoughts were not their own. Will was gone. "We forgot what freedom felt like," Kale said, his voice soft, "until we saw Earth fight." Now they wanted to help Earth prepare for what came next. With the workers' knowledge, Earth's engineers built better shields. They learned to make quantum crystals of their own. Anya trained a new team of pilots, humans and workers together, to fly mixed squads of drones. The Persephone was repaired stronger than before. New ships were built using both human and alien designs. They were faster, quieter, deadlier. But the biggest change was in the people. Children in schools now learned about other species. Doctors studied alien medicine. Farmers grew food using worker techniques that needed less water. Fear of the unknown was turning into curiosity. Still, danger remained. One night, a scout ship near Neptune sent a warning. A single hegemony warship, different from the others, was moving toward Earth. It didn't drift. It flew with purpose. Rostova called the crew back. "This might be a scout," she said. "Or it might be the first of a new fleet. We can't let it reach Earth." Boone didn't hesitate. "We'll stop it." This time they weren't alone. 10 worker ships joined the Persephone. Kale himself piloted one. They met the enemy near Uranus. The hegemony ship was sleek, black, and covered in strange symbols. It fired without warning. Lasers cut through space. But Earth and its allies were ready. Anya sent her drones in a spiral pattern, confusing the enemy's targeting system. Worker ships used old mining lasers to overload the warship's shields. Boone flew the Persephone straight at its engine core. In less than 5 minutes, the ship was destroyed. No survivors. No signals, just silence. Back on Earth, Rostova knew this was only the beginning. The hegemony would not forget what happened at Erebus. They would come back with more ships, more weapons, more hate. But Earth was no longer helpless. The Free Systems Accord held its first official meeting in Geneva. Representatives from human colonies and freed worker groups sat together. They signed a simple agreement. We will protect each other. We will never enslave. We will remember Mars. Boone stood at the window after the meeting, looking at the stars. Lila joined him. "Do you think they'll come back?" "Yes," he said. "But next time we won't be alone." She nodded. "And we'll be ready." In the months that followed, Earth changed. Not back to what it was before the broadcast, but into something new, stronger, kinder, wiser. Schools taught courage, not just math. Factories built ships, not just cars. Leaders spoke of unity, not borders. The date of Mars's fall, March 12th, was marked every year. Not with sadness alone, but with promise. On that day, people lit candles, told stories of the lost, and swore to protect the living. General Rostova gave a speech that became famous. They showed us the worst of the universe. But we showed them the best of ourselves. We did not break. We rose. And in the quiet corners of space, other worlds heard Earth's message. Some were still under the hegemony's control, but now they whispered a new word. Hope. The crew of the Persephone knew their journey wasn't over. There would be more battles, more losses, but they also knew something else. Humanity was not just from Earth anymore. It was part of something bigger. And as long as they stood together, with humans, workers, and any who chose freedom, they would never be slaves again. The stars were no longer just lights in the sky. They were homes, and Earth was their guardian. 3 years after the fall of Erebus Station, Earth was not the same world it had been before the broadcast. Cities still bore scars, empty buildings, quiet streets where laughter used to echo, but life had returned. Not the old life, but a new one, built on memory, courage, and something no one had expected: trust. In Geneva, where the deepest bunker once held the last hopes of humanity, a new building now stood above ground. It was not a military base or a government office. It was the Hall of Accord, a round open structure with walls of glass and gardens growing on every level. Inside, humans sat side by side with beings from a dozen worlds: gray-skinned workers, tall plant-like virlons, insectoid engineers from the Kuiper Belt, and others whose names Earth had only recently learned. At the center of the hall, on March 12, 2150, General Elena Rostova stood before them all. She wore no uniform, only a simple dark coat with a small pin, a red dot inside a circle, the symbol of Mars. 10 billion lives lost. Never forgotten. She did not speak loudly, but everyone listened. They came from the stars, she began, and showed us death on a screen. They thought we would kneel. They thought we were weak. She paused, looking at the faces before her, human and alien, young and old, scarred and whole. But we did not kneel. We rose, not just to fight but to build, not just to survive but to protect. Behind her, a large screen showed images: children planting trees in Martian refugee camps, worker ships helping rebuild lunar colonies, scientists from Earth and Varela working together on clean energy, Anya Petrova teaching drone piloting to a young insectoid cadet. This, Rostova said, is our answer to the void. Not more weapons, not more fear, more hands, more hearts, more voices. The crowd did not cheer. They stood in silence, then placed their right hands over their hearts, a new gesture of unity, taught by the workers who believed the heart was the home of will. After the ceremony, people walked through the gardens. Captain Marcus Boone sat on a bench watching the sunset. His hair was grayer now. His left arm was a prosthetic, built by Virlan bioengineers after the battle near Uranus. But his eyes were calm. Lila Chen joined him holding 2 cups of tea. "Do you ever miss the old Earth?" she asked. Boone smiled faintly. "I miss my friends. My home in Buenos Aires. The smell of rain on concrete." He looked at her. But that Earth couldn't have beaten the hegemony. It was too divided, too afraid of itself. Lila nodded. "This Earth? It listens." They sat in silence for a while. Then a small figure ran up to them, a child about 6 years old with dark skin and bright eyes. She wore a tiny flight suit with the Free Systems logo. "Captain Boone," she said, breathless. "I saw your ship today. Can I fly one when I grow up?" Boone knelt, ignoring the ache in his knee. "Only if you promise to protect everyone, not just humans." The girl nodded seriously. "I promise." As she ran off, Lila chuckled. "We're raising a new kind of human." "Yes," Boone said. "One who knows they're not alone in the universe." Far above, in orbit, the UNS Persephone floated peacefully. It no longer carried bombs. Now it carried aid. Medicine, seeds, teachers to new colonies forming on moons and asteroids. Anya Petrova was its captain now. She had retired from combat, but not from service. Dr. Kenji Tanaka, now in his 70s, worked in a lab on the moon. There, he and Kale, the first worker to speak to Earth, had built a school for young minds from every species. They taught physics, language, and something they called ethics of freedom. Knowledge without kindness is just another weapon, Tanaka often said. And the hegemony? They had not returned. Not yet, but Earth knew they would. Scouts had found signs of activity near the galactic rim. New ships, new signals. The core of the Empire was far away, but it was not dead, only wounded. Still, Earth was ready. The Free Systems Accord now included over 50 worlds and stations. They shared technology, food, and defense. If one was attacked, all would respond. No more Mars. No more silence. On quiet nights, people still looked up at the sky. But they no longer saw only danger. They saw neighbors, allies, friends. In Nairobi, a street vendor sold star maps alongside fruit. In Tokyo, children played games where they rescued alien refugees. In the Andes, a new temple was built, not to gods, but to memory. Its walls were covered in names, 10 billion names from Mars carved by hand. No one forgot. But no one lived in fear either. One evening, Rostova stood alone on a hill outside Geneva. The wind was cool. Stars filled the sky. She held a small data chip, the last message from her granddaughter on Mars sent minutes before the broadcast. She had never played it. She wasn't sure she ever would, but she kept it close. A soft voice came from behind her. "You did well, General." She turned. It was Kale, wrapped in a long robe, his gray skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. "We all did," she said. Kale looked up. "On my world, we believed the stars were prisons. The hegemony told us we were alone, that no one would ever care." He turned to her. "You proved them wrong." Rostova didn't answer. She just stood beside him, watching the sky. Somewhere out there, other beings were suffering. Other worlds were waiting. Earth could not save them all. But it could try. It could show them that resistance was possible. That freedom was worth fighting for. And that was enough. The next morning, a new message arrived from deep space. It was faint, broken, but clear enough. It came from a star system no human ship had ever visited. The words were simple. "We saw your light. We are coming." In the Hall of Accord, the council met within the hour. Humans, workers, violins, and others gathered around the table. Boone spoke first. "They're not asking for help. They're joining us," Lila added. "Then we welcome them." Rostova stood. "Tell them this. Earth is not a planet anymore. It's a promise, and the promise is open to all." That night, Earth sent its reply, not with weapons, not with warnings, but with a song. A song made of human voices, worker chants, Varellan wind harps, and the hum of starships. It carried no words, only feeling. You are not alone. As the message traveled into the dark, children on Earth slept peacefully. Farmers tended their fields. Pilots checked their ships. Scientists dreamed of new worlds. The war had changed them, but it had not broken them. Instead, it had shown them who they truly were. Not just survivors, but guardians, and as long as even one light burned in the darkness, they would keep it alive.